Hello, everyone. We are the Premium FPL podcast at premium_FPL on Twitter. As always, I'm Callum, joined by Mindy. What an exciting game week, wasn't it? We started off with City coming back and then ended up finished with Antonio and my mate Benrahma kind of sealing the deal of why didn't I put him in, but nevertheless, great game week.
Yeah, and lots of goals again. And after all the decision making in the community around Salah and Fernandes, they both stayed quiet, which is it's a very stark contrast to how they both did last week, where it was like whichever one you captained, you were happy. It's almost like the gods of FPL reminding us that it's not that simple to nail the captain every week. So keeps it interesting, keeps it exciting.
Yeah, definitely. And just a quick shout out. We had an email just before we came on the podcast that we are, was it number 8 in soccer podcast in Poland? So big shout out to our Polish followers, in particular, Mindy's mate. Yeah, good to have a bit of traction over there, and hopefully we can take the podcast worldwide one day.
I think that might be just Kieran listening in Poland. That took us to number 8 for football in Poland. Yeah, unless, as I was saying, Kieran's recommended it to some of his mates in Poland and it's taken off. We'll have to do a shout out for the Polish fan base on the Twitter account later. See how many Polish followers we've got.
Yeah, definitely. And we're approaching. Is it 1,000 Twitter followers on Twitter as well? So making good ground.
So it's a good segue into the social admin. Twitter handle is premium_FPL. Same on Instagram. YouTube, if you just type in Premium Player FPL, you'll find us on there. And what else? We do have a prize league going again this season for a bit of cash. So if you want entry into the league, just DM us on Twitter or Instagram. We'll tell you what you need to do to get yourself in the league. Adam Ellis won a bit of cash last season for coming top of that. So yeah, if you fancy being in the running for some moolah, then get yourself in our DMs. Anything else to mention this week? It's another Saturday deadline, isn't it, this week? So
no FNF. Yeah, and last one before the international break, and hopefully we'll get some news about the quarantine. There's been apparently the teams aren't going to send their players to red list countries, so maybe we won't have. Hopefully, it won't affect FPL. Or if you're Mindy and you're a cynic, unfortunately, it won't affect FPL.
No, I'm pleased with that. There's enough big decisions to be made without having to worry about all that stuff. So yeah, I'll quickly run through what we're talking about today before we get into the game week review. We've got talking about the weekend, our points, and then as we're both United and City fans, we're gonna look at how the two Manchester clubs did and what we can learn from both of them for FPL. Then we're looking at, kind of linked to that, with the emergence of the premium players and then the budget price options in some of the respective teams, which sort of mid-price midfielder can best match or cover a premium. So, Jota versus Salah, Ali versus Son, Pogba, Greenwood versus Fernandes. So there could be a few people looking into that this week. So hopefully we've got some stats and some insight there. And then the thing we started last week, Snog, Marry, Avoid, our own version of Buy, Hold, Sell. That's back. Added in a little bonus edition this week for the managers. A few managers with some new looks, so didn't want to miss them out. Show the managers some love for Snog, Marry, Avoid. And then we've had the question that's on a lot of people's lips from Rob Facey on Twitter on how the hell do we get Lukaku in our teams? So that's a good way to wrap up, I think, before we go into the weekly regular premium planning section.
Yeah, definitely. We just had a question actually from Adam around Lukaku. We'll probably answer that at the end. So he's just asking, does he take a 4-point deduction for Lukaku? So I think Lukaku is very much on everyone's mind. Brilliant performance against Arsenal. We did both. I mean, we weren't saying anything controversial or new that people had heard about, but we did both think they would play well in that game, didn't we? So Yeah, it could be
Yeah,
interesting to see how he does going forward.
I was messaging you before because I know you like to bet on Lukaku before the game. I was like, are we going for it? Like when the Arsenal team sheet came out, I saw like when it was Mari and Holding, I just thought there's no way. I just regret not looking into that a bit more on the day. But I was out on Sunday. But yeah, just it was, as they said on Match of the Day, if you could pick a team and a defender for him to be up against, like it was just kind of like a match made in heaven, that game, wasn't it, for Rom?
Yeah, men against boys. I think Funes Mary nailing on the halfway line kind of summed it up, really. Yeah. But yeah, we'll talk about that.
Was that question coming live on the YouTube? Yeah.
Yeah, coming from Adam, yeah.
Nice. You should remember to do that thing where you flag it up if there's that button to flag it up on the stream.
So yeah, I'll do that at the end. Yeah.
Sweet.
So moving on to the game week, another solid game week for yourself. I think up until probably last night, you were probably really happy with this, weren't you? And then Benrahma kind of upset it a bit, but still solid score.
Yeah, so it's 76 points. Banked my 2 free transfers. The transfer I was considering was Rafinha to Benrahma last week, but then yeah, just the uncertainty around whether Lingard is going to West Ham kind of put me off a little bit. And then I just thought 2 frees for this week would be good to have, especially with that uncertainty around the international break and stuff. So I wasn't kicking myself too much about that. Rafinha scored at least. And then, yeah, what did we say about Antonio? What a game, what a celebration. Just, I think the only thing that took the gloss off his evening was the fact that he got his film reference wrong, didn't he, on Monday Night Football? He was referring to Dirty Dancing for his celebration. It was, what did he call it? Like he called it the last dance or something, didn't he? Which Gary Neville and Carragher in the studio were like, oh yeah, that one. And then they realised afterwards that like, they were pretending they knew what he was on about because it was live, but really he just completely messed up his reference. But anyway, like yeah, he played amazingly in that. The way he took his goals was great. Just the way they're set up to feed him looks strong as well. The way they counter attack so quickly, so he's not going anywhere. Son is probably the big concern for my midfield. Didn't look to have that many chances at the weekend and came off early with rumours about maybe a hamstring or tightness in his thigh, which is concerning. So that's something to talk about this week for my team. And yeah, the only player that got points really in midfield was Rafinha. Son and Bruno blanked. And then because of Veltman's surprise injury, I had to play Gilmore this week, which wasn't ideal against City. So that's another flaw in my team. I think there's a few people like me who've got Ben White, Tsimikas and Veltman, which is 3 defenders not playing this week, which gives a lot of decisions to make this week for people. So I'll try to cover that off when we get to the end around my transfers. And my rank quickly is 233k.
Lovely stuff. I was just checking my rank there. It's a bit below yours. So I got 76 as well, like yourself. A bit different in terms of I had Harvey Barnes, unfortunately, last night, who didn't look great again. Leicester didn't look great. I know the 10 men kind of scuppered him a bit, but West Ham were very much on top of that game. So he's actually already come out my team. We'll talk about transfers later. But of the differences to yourself, Grealish, good to see him doing well, even though his goal, it kind of just hit him. He didn't really have to do much. The way he celebrated, that's as if he scored a 30-yard screamer in his debut, but nevertheless, still got 8 points. Good to see City back. And then, yeah, probably just Tony's the other one, isn't he? Who's another concern. 2 blanks now. His stats are still quite good. So just a question of whether he gets that goal. And at 6.5, with Lukaku and all the money kind of emerging elsewhere, is one of them. Do you keep hold of him and hope he gets a few goals and proves value at 6.5? I think the fact that Harvey Barnes probably more of a pressing issue, well, he is, to get rid of him, just because I don't think that Leicester team's firing at the moment. So, yeah, other than that, Danny Ings, I think he's had 1 shot on target, non-pen. and it was a bicycle kit, some finish. But he's one who's got Brentford at home next, and then after that, their fixtures kind of fall off a cliff. So he's probably the one that will make way for the inevitable ROM hole that I need to build. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how the premiums kind of develop next few weeks, and that I think that'll be at the forefront of everyone's mind, won't it?
Yeah, so it's just reminded me looking at your team now. For the podcast listeners, probably run through the names because not everyone's seen the graphic. So yeah, you've got Alexander-Arnold and Shaw there. Shaw in defence. Shaw, it's quite interesting. You got 2 bonus points without an attacking return or a clean sheet. It's not often you see that, but maybe sort of suggests like how that he is racking up the chances and crosses into the box, etc., which is what the baseline bonus seems to favour. So something to touch on later as well around United's defence and should we keep patience or not. And then you've got Tsimikas there. As you said, what a gift he's been.
Yeah, gift from God at 4 million. The question is, with Robbo on the bench at the weekend and Chelsea coming next, does he kind of revert back? There might be a chance that he does get that Chelsea game and then give Robbo the international break to kind of recover. But even then, it's Chelsea. It's a tough game with their playing. So yeah, it's going to be interesting.
We both had Sanchez in net for their clean sheet. Brighton looks quite assured against Watford, so happy to keep him. It's just so annoying about Veltman. Like, I think Potter knew, like he would have known, like before game week 1, that situation seems to have kept it quiet, that he had that close contact, and now he's saying that because of his lack of training, he probably won't make this week, and so that probably leaves him coming back after the international break, and then will he get back into the team, etc. It's just a doubt you don't want. So it's an annoying one, but yeah, can't complain too much there. So what did you say your rank was?
It's about 380,000. So I think I'm about 10 points behind you. I think that's from the first week, isn't it? So hopefully claw that back over the next couple of weeks. We'll see how it goes. The thing at the moment,
we both made early transfers this week, haven't we? So you have to keep tuned in to the end for the live reveal.
Yeah, made mine Sunday evening with the price rises. My famous go early at the start of the season, catch those price rises. Hopefully it'll pay off again. We'll see.
I went last night because there just seemed to be so much volatility last night. Like after that West Ham game, the site I went FPL statistics. I went on it to check straight after the game just to see what was going on, and it was actually down for 10 minutes. So everyone must have been doing the same thing and seeing if they could wait in the day or not. Yeah, exactly. But then he was showing like 130% chance of rising like within 10-15 minutes of the game finishing. So yeah, I think there have been quite a lot of people who've reacted last night. But yeah, we'll get to that later.
So we'll start with the first topic of the pod. So it's around City's kind of performance in United's it was completely flip reversal from game week 1, doesn't it? So it just shows you we don't have enough data yet to kind of make a full assessment of teams. You kind of got to wait for 3 or 4 or 5, even 5 game weeks before you kind of get a sense of where a team's at. And then obviously City 5-0 at the weekend against Norwich. Probably the perfect team to bounce back against, other than Arsenal, I'd say. No, I'm joking. Just in the sense that there's teams that you probably don't want to play down there who kind of make it ugly, dirty kind of thing. And Norwich just let City walk all over them in a sense. Norwich kind of turned up like, we'll play football. And if you turn up to Etihad and play football, in terms of going toe-to-toe, there's only going to be one winner, as we found over the past few years. You kind of got to play on the counter-attack. So it's probably too big of a kind of conclusion to make that City are backfiring because it was 5-0, because there will be tougher tests to come. But one performance that did stand out was this man on the right wing. He was phenomenal. And at 8.5 million, it's almost as if, does he become an option up front? I know there's a bit of competition there, but in terms of his performance, he'll definitely play this weekend for sure. After that, he was phenomenal, linking up with Kyle Walker down the right side. As you can see there, 2 assists, 2 big chances created, 4 crosses into box, 3 chances. Yep, 9 touches in the opposition box. Like I said, it's only Norwich, so maybe don't take too big of a conclusion. But I just think he looked very natural in that position, and he plays in the wing for Brazil, doesn't he? So it's almost as if he might come alive in that position, and definitely one to keep an eye on. But in terms of City as a whole, I don't think anyone's kind of emerged as the person to get yet. So it's almost like wait and see over the next. I know I've got Grealish, but in terms of FPL, I was actually talking to my brother at the game, and I was like, he doesn't look good as an FPL asset here at all, because he kind of was assisting the assister in a way. Like, he wants to look pretty outside the box. He's not kind of, he wasn't taking up like the killer position from an FPL perspective. So it's one to keep an eye on. I probably won't sell. Well, I won't sell Grealish this week, but it's one where I'll probably watch the next couple of games and see how his position's evolving in the team.
Right. Okay. And I guess from this Jesus performance, you'd probably say that if you've got Mahrez, it probably gives you a bit of doubt, like that right wing performance from Jesus. And I think after the game, when he was asked, like, whoever asked him the question was like, was it strange to be playing on the right wing? And as you just said, he was like, no, I've been playing right wing for Brazil for two years, so it didn't feel like it was fine. So I think he's happy to play there. So it kind of means there's more. A lot of people thought before the season that Mahrez was kind of the main option for the right wing. There wasn't, with Ipinado.
We thought there was no competition. Yeah.
And then out of nowhere, we've now got Jesus as a right winger in the making.
Yeah, and he kind of he struggles up front, but funnily enough, that right wing position he was taking up, he was ahead of the striker, which was Torres. So he's almost as if he was playing as a right forward in a sense. So maybe that's position he might come home, and if he gets a few goals out there, maybe he will become an option.
Yeah, interesting. As you say, one to watch. See if we can start to see a pattern in Pep's teams and who plays in the Premier League, who plays in Europe, etc. It's kind of really hard to know what he's thinking after 2 games.
Yeah, it's definitely want to watch the Arsenal, because I'll be very surprised if he doesn't get the game against that. So we've got another game to watch there and kind of make a conclusion from there. On the other side, United had a bit of a tough performance, would you say, against Southampton down at St. Mary? They kind of got back into the game in the second half, and they looked like they were going to romp it at one point, but then things just slowed down and regressive again, weren't they?
Yeah, it was a lot of to and fro in the game in terms of the momentum. I think when Hassan Hüttl made his changes, Southampton got back into it, and Che Adams and Armstrong looked to be linking up quite well at times. That could be an emerging strike partnership there. Regarding United, I think from the eye test, it kind of looked like the defence wasn't that settled. Like, having Matic there as protection didn't really work compared to McTominay, and Maguire was ending up in positions which he doesn't like to be in and making bad passes and got his customary yellow card. He, 18 yellows last season. I don't know if he'll get that many again, but it was, he picked up a yellow for, I can't remember who it was. It was about running past him. It might have been Che Adams, and he just took him out because he knew there was no way he was catching him. But then, as this data we've seen on Twitter overnight shows that they're not actually conceded that many shots in the box, United. It's just, I think where they have conceded, they've just been high XG chances. Where the comparison here is Spurs. So Spurs have conceded 25 shots in the box and kept 2 clean sheets, whereas United have conceded just 6 shots in the box, but haven't had a clean sheet. So it kind of shows how things maybe haven't settled yet. It does sort of suggest that if you've got Luke Shaw, maybe have a bit of patience. Clean sheets might still come. Shaw's not someone I'm looking to get rid of yet. Mainly probably due to having other bigger concerns in my team. Happy to give him a bit more time. But from watching it and the way Southampton did manage to get at United quite a bit during the game, I think that 5.5 defensive bracket player is probably better spent on a Chelsea defensive asset in the next 2 to 3 weeks as we get ready for that good Chelsea run that's coming up. Elsewhere, Bruno, that foul has been talked about a lot. Was it a foul? Was it not? But yeah, that tackle on him that led to Southampton scoring. You're shaking your head there. What's your? You think
never a foul? Yeah.
Yeah, debatable one. I saw Brendan Rodgers on M&F was like, how is that not a foul? But yeah, it's overall it's good to see like a lot of those fouls just being let go. It keeps the game flowing. So hopefully some of those will go United's way elsewhere in the season. Pogba had a good game again, I thought, and it was interesting that whenever a ball went into the box from a free kick or a corner, he was just so close to getting on the end of things. Usually, it just seems like from last season, United's tactic was just look for Maguire and just try and get his head on it. Whereas now, Pogba, I think whether it's the arrival of the set piece coach that United have got now, there's a bit more variation, and Pogba's either getting his head on it or there for a rebound. So I can see him getting a few goals from set pieces this season, which could be interesting. With if his assist numbers stay high, he could be one where if you're not planning on captaining Bruno for a few weeks, you could just maybe have Pogba or Greenwood, and that's something we'll look at later in that section on who can cover who best for premiums. But yeah, I think that sort of was about it for the game. I guess the other thing to keep an eye on for United is how Sancho fits in. You'd think Ollie's going to try and work him into the starting lineup sooner rather than later now after losing a bit of momentum.
Yeah, just a quick one on Shaw. I watched the game and, like I say, I wasn't surprised to see him get 2 bonus points because he was taking pretty much every corner, every set piece, every whipping. And it's almost as if you're kind of reluctant to sell him. But remember last year when everyone did have him, his points, he got a lot, but he didn't probably get his performance kind of justified. And maybe that might be a similar story this year, that he always looks good, but he doesn't get the points because he doesn't get the clean sheets as, say, a Chelsea defender. So it will be interesting to kind of follow that. I think people are probably reluctant to take him out at the moment because the performances are still there, aren't they, for sure?
Yeah, and it's just as we've said, a lot of people have got other problems. People are wondering how to get Benrahma. People have got cheap defenders they need to replace, like Ben White, etc. Or people are wondering how to get Lukaku or Calvert-Lewin, etc. in the forward line for Tony. So I can't see Shaw having a price drop just yet, but I think maybe in the coming weeks, if United don't get a clean sheet or he doesn't get an attacking return, he could start to leak a bit of value, which is something we'll have to assess.
Yep. We'll move on to what you talked about there, kind of with the emergence of the premiums, you've almost got to kind of choose whether you're going to have Lukaku, Fernandes, trying to think, Salah, or Son. Like, you're not going to be able to afford all 4. And it was only last week that everyone was raving about Son. I know his injury kind of last week stalled his momentum a bit, but if he scores a goal again at the weekend, like a lot of teams will kind of be wondering how to get him in, and especially the Kane news develops and stuff. So this graph here is from TED Talks FPL. Used a graph last week. Some very good graphs from. I recommend this Twitter account if you're an FPL player. But this was before the Antonio Benrahma masterclass last night, so I expect them to be a lot higher up along the grid here. But this just summarizes kind of shots and chances created and how you can make the comparisons between the premium assets. So obviously, if you look at the bottom there, Trent, he's miles clear of everyone else in terms of Trent chances created. So he's pretty much a must for everyone's teams. But then when you look at kind of the plays you want to make kind of comparisons against, when you look at Fernandes and Pogba, for example, Pogba's had more chances created. He's only had 1 less shot, and similar big chances created, big chances as well. So he, for me, probably the standout at the moment, because when you look at Jota, he's a bit further down than Salah in terms of this grid, whereas Fernandes and Pogba are both pretty close. And then there's also the comparison between Son and Ali, but Ali doesn't even qualify on this grid. I think what helps Dele is the penalties. As you can see, he took a penalty at the weekend. So if he takes another penalty and scores that, then that might be coming into the thinking. But I think in terms of Son, if you didn't want Son, I wouldn't look for Ali. I'd probably look at a Rafinha or someone else. Whereas if you wanted to make a United investment, then if Pogba keeps up the form, then I'd probably say Bruno to Pogba is probably the one that's standing out at the moment. The only worry you have is if Pogba gets moved back into the centre of midfield. But if he's playing that well after 2 games, he kind of progresses that. It's almost as if, why would Ollie want to change his position? So maybe maybe that's the standout one for me after 2 games to try and make way for Big Rom up top.
Yeah, and then I think just to maybe touch on Greenwood a little bit, he was moved from the from the number 9 position at the weekend for Martial, but Martial didn't look great. So you'd think Greenwood's going to go back up top. So there's 2 potential options there that you could downgrade from for Fernandes in Greenwood and Pogba. The main bonus that Fernandes still has is the penalties in his locker and the amount of penalties that United seem to win, especially last season. So I think once we've got a couple more games out of the way, and like there's a couple of games, I think it's at Gameweek 4 where we've earmarked Fernandes for captain home to Newcastle. I think I'll probably reassess after that. Like I might, if I'm then not going to captain Fernandes for quite a few weeks, I might then make that downgrade to Greenwood or Pogba, and then use the money elsewhere for something else. So yeah, it's interesting to see it charted out like this, isn't it? And then we should maybe just, what an outlier Lukaku with 8 shots. He's head and shoulders above his shot numbers.
He's had 1 game and everyone else has had 2, and he's had 3 chances created as well. So it's not as if he's just shooting. Like that performance was pretty sensational for his second debut.
Yeah, exactly. I think he's definitely sort of stuck his flag in the sand, doesn't he, Lukaku, with that performance? And it's just the way I think that Chelsea is set up to create chances for him. Like Reece James had a blinding game, and you'd think that once Chilwell gets back into the team, there'll be a good set of crosses and deliveries coming in from that side on a more consistent basis. Not that Alonso's played badly, but just Chilwell's a bit more. You'd say he's slightly better in terms of his ability to get up and down the line, even if their deliveries are quite similar. He's a bit more dynamic up and down. So I think there'll be even more chances coming his way once Chilwell is match fit. So should we move on to the next graphic, which is data from including yesterday? So what we've got up at the moment is the top 10 for expected goal involvement over the last 2 weeks. So expected goal involvement is expected goals plus expected assists. So Antonio top 2.72, and then Dominic Calvert-Lewin second. That includes the fact that he's had a penalty, which is quite a big boost to your XG. I think, after United played Leeds and looked amazing, and I sort of said, not really sure how good United were. I do wonder if it's kind of similar here with Calvert-Lewin. Like there was a lot of chances for him in that game, and he did look like Everton were able to create for him very consistently. I just wonder if, again, it's maybe the fact that Leeds were quite open. I maybe want to see a game or 2 more of how that pans out before going for Calvert-Lewin. But yeah, definitely looks promising. And Ings, I can see after next week, Ings to Calvert-Lewin being popular with people, similar price, and the fixture turn is quite drastic for Ings. Did you say he's had 1 shot in the box or something? Ings?
I'm sure I read that. I think it's 1 shot on either 1 shot or 1 shot on target, and it was a bicycle kick. I know he only had 1 shot the first game, and it was a penalty. So
yeah.
They
don't look to have gelled yet. Like now that they've lost Grealish and they've got quite a few players, the attack doesn't look to have gelled quite yet. So yeah, I can see that being popular, losing Ings. And then it's interesting still to see in this top 10, Lukaku's number 5 after 1 game. It's crazy that, isn't it? So it's, and then Pogba is above Bruno for expected goal involvement, 1.37 for Pogba, 1.28 for Bruno. So it adds a bit more weight to that sort of, is Bruno maybe the one premium you can maybe downgrade out of him, Salah, and who's the other one?
Interesting that there's no Salah on this though, isn't there?
It is interesting, but then I think with the fact that he's got pens, he's got the pedigree, I wouldn't. And it's just the fact that you don't have to worry about his start as much. If Jota wasn't rotating with Firmino, you wouldn't like it'd be an easier case to make for maybe making that downgrade to Jota. But the fact that there is that threat there, and as you've just said, Pogba doesn't look like he's not really going to drop out of the team at the moment. You don't think so? So yeah, I think of those, if I was looking to reallocate funds and one premium had to go, I'm not sure I'd do it now because of the game against Newcastle coming up, where I think I'm going to want to captain him. But after that, if these data trends continue and Pogba or Greenwood are still sort of coming close to matching Bruno or beating him, that would be probably where I look to make that money saving.
Yeah, and you forget Salah was probably an inch away from another good captaincy haul, and this stat probably didn't take into account his offside.
Oh yeah,
so
that's an example of one where the stats don't tell the story because it was ruled out for offside VAR. So yeah, if that had gone in and he'd had that shot in the box, like his XG would be quite a bit higher, and he'd be probably as you say on this list.
Another player who stands out for me, I know you're probably both not going to go there, is Adama Traore. He had another 2 clear-cut chances last week, especially one where he's through on goal against Lloris. And I think Wolves' fixtures kind of turn after. I think I sent you the stats around. I think Wolves have had the most shots out of any Premier League team since game week 1, and they've not scored a goal yet, which is probably a sad indictment of Adama. But if he kind of gets a couple, then maybe you never know, he could become an option.
Yeah, so he's number 3 on this list. He's like the opposite of Son. He's the massively
XG. Anti-XG.
Yeah. Brighton should sign him. I don't know. I think as you say, until I see him, it's the fact that whenever he shoots as well, when you watch, it doesn't look like he's like aiming for the corners or trying to sort of position it where he's trying to beat the keeper. It's very much just like, let's keep this on target, and everything just seems to be straight at the keeper. You don't have that sense of confidence when he's through on goal that he is going to finish, which is just off-putting to me. So yeah, not really looking there at the moment.
Got a comment from Sam here, holding Chilwell for game week 1. That's unfortunate. When you look at the performance that Alonso had in the game week 1, Reece James last game week, that's an unfortunate call, because if you had either other fullback, you would have been laughing, wouldn't you?
Yeah, it's a tricky one that I wouldn't really know what to do, because you think he's going to come into the team sooner rather than later, but then it's really hard. I think you'd have to. If I had Chilwell, I'd be listening intently to the press conference on Thursday or Friday just to see when he is coming back into the team.
Yeah, so moving on to our new feature this season, the Snog, Marry, Avoid feature. I'd just like to say, last game week, the 3 that I picked out, was it Greenwood, Antonio, both bang, Snog and Marry, and then Avoid Harvey Barnes at all costs. Unfortunately for me, I didn't, and another poor performance from Leicester. So we've had a strike rate of 1 from 1 so far in this. So hopefully, Mindy, you can take the reins and have another good performance.
Yeah, so just to go over what this section is for any people who've joined us in the past week or so, this is our sort of Love Island version of buy, hold, sell. So Snog is buy, Marry is hold, Avoid is sell. So yeah, and it's based on our own teams rather than like the three players overall. It's kind of looking at mine and Callum's team each week and deciding who best fits the Snog, Marry, Avoid category. So should we get started? So yeah, so this week I'm snogging Big Rom. I might struggle to get near him to get my tongue down him with the way his performance is going. I'll be on the floor like trying to slide tackle him to try and I'll be like Pablo Mari, just making a rash tackle in the box to try and get him on my level. But yeah, just that performance, the fact that he's competing with players on the stats after 2 games from 1 game shows like how dominant he was. As we've said earlier on, Chelsea they kind of look like a slick, well-oiled machine at the moment. Everything's primed. It was one thing I thought was interesting was that after the game, Tuchel said they've not even really fully made a plan for how to use Lukaku yet. He kind of just said to him, "Go out, play. Let's see what you can do, and then we'll fine tune afterwards." So that's quite ominous. The fact that they've not even really fully embedded him into the tactics yet, and he's already off to a flyer. So yeah, only one candidate for the Snog this week for me. Murray, I know you picked Antonio for the Murray last week, but
surely should be rules here. You can't just copy mine.
But there's two Antonios now. There's the cardboard cutout and there's this one. So you can have the cardboard cutout and I'll have the real deal.
Very good.
So yeah, that's the Murray sorted for this week. I don't think anybody is losing Antonio. Everyone's holding or looking to get him in. So yeah, perfect fit for marriage material. Yeah, everyone says they look for someone with a sense of humor, don't they? So he fits the bill. Like as soon as he starts talking, just the way he speaks just sort of makes you laugh. So yeah, definitely Antonio for there.
His first goal yesterday was brilliant, wasn't it? The one where he just rolled the defender and just smashed it. Yeah, top notch. Interesting.
And then, yeah, I think of the players in my team, if I had like a free transfer, it would probably, if I had like a spare transfer to make that a switch, it probably would be Shaw, it is unlucky that he is here, but it's just, I think we've spoken about needing as much money as we can in midfield and attack, and also just we're going to want a Chelsea defender soon. So yeah, it is. I think it's not. I'm not going to lose him this week, but unless there's a marked increase in improvement in how United are playing and attacking returns actually come to fruition, I think it will be Shaw to like Reece James or Rudiger or Christensen, something like that in the coming weeks for me. Game week 7, definitely. I think there'll be a lot of people making that transfer, and as we touched on before, we want to be protecting our team value at this stage of the season, and I can see Shaw starting to drop soon if there aren't points incoming. So yeah, it was. I don't know. You're saying it's a bit interesting, a bit controversial. It would have been your avoid from my team this week.
Trying to think who you don't. At least you're here respectable. You've gone from one of your premium assets. You could have easily gone for Veltman, and you wouldn't have really told anyone anything new. So you've got a strong team. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head what's different from mine.
I guess having to start Gilmore is a bit of a problem for me if that keeps happening. But yeah, as you say, I didn't want to come on and say one of the 4.5s would have been a bit boring.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Shaw probably is the one. Son, it's unfair with Son after we were hailing him after the first week. We can't just U-turn like that. So yeah, that's probably fair enough.
I think the uncertainty around the injury and stuff meant I didn't go for Son. But if there is this niggling doubt about his hamstring, and the other thing is that Nuno, the way he does his press conferences, is up there with the best of them for being as vague as possible. So I can see him not confirming like on Friday, which is annoying. So that's something that's in the back of my mind. But yeah, we're going to get to our transfers shortly, so we'll keep that under wraps for now.
We've got a few questions flying in, but we'll move on to our bonus feature first, and then we'll answer a few questions. So just obviously our features Snog, Marry, Avoid, but as you've all seen across the Premier League first 2 game weeks, something that's catching Mindy's eye is the new fresh look for the gaffers, aren't you? So something that you're enjoying?
Yeah, definitely. So we're doing a Snog, Marry, Avoid Manager Edition, 1 week only, I think. Just a bit of fun. So watching United Southampton, couldn't help but notice Hasenhüttl's new look on the touchline. I was watching it with my mate Josh, and he said he looks like he's just got Instagram over the summer, and like he's been getting a few shopping ads, and he's got a brand new look, like influencer ready. He's rocking the suit and trainers look. It's something that Pep's been trying to do for like 5 years, like master how to wear a suit with trainers, and then here comes Hasenhüttl and nails it in 1 week. So
not only suit and trainers, bloody waistcoat to top it. He's gone all out.
Yeah, and it was getting a bit of attention on Twitter. A lot of people noticing. So I think there might be a few people there with me trying to snog Hasenhüttl this week.
And if you're marrying, then are you marrying Mr. Potter or?
Yeah, Murray and Mr. Potter, I think. The beard's caught a few eyes, hasn't it? It's completely changed his look. It's interesting that he was asked before the season what's changed for Brighton this season. He said just the beard. I think he's a good candidate for me to marry as well. I feel like we'd have a lot in common. Brighton massively underperform their XG when it comes to scoring, and in my career, I've probably massively underperformed my expected bangs. So we'll have something in common in that respect.
Fucking hell! Right, and you're avoiding Klopp at all costs, eh?
It just reminded me when we set up this podcast, and I had to get it onto Apple Podcasts and all that. You have to set whether it's going to be explicit or PG and suit for everyone. So I did put explicit. So we'll definitely have to keep that on if we're keeping Snog avoiding for the future. And yeah, unfortunately, Klopp without glasses, it's just not the same, is it? He's just that iconic shot of him with his cap on and the glasses on. It's just he's the manager I'm avoiding for this, I think. I don't think the glasses are ever going to come back as well. It sounds like he's had laser eye surgery or something. So we'll all have to make do with no hipster glasses on Klopp anymore.
Maybe he just needed a fresh change to kind of get his Liverpool team back performing. Maybe that's the secret to success.
Maybe, but yeah,
we'll best move on to FPL before we lose any listeners. Someone's tuning into this thinking, "What the fuck's going on here?" So we'll move back on to. I'll tell you what. We'll answer a few questions before we do our premium playing segment.
Cool.
First one's from Adam. Is it genius or madness captaining Ings this weekend?
You throwing that one to me? Yeah.
Yeah, go for it.
It's definitely a risky one, I think, with his stats. I think if he hadn't been getting his goals just from penalties and overhead kicks, he'd be a bit more confident. But he doesn't look to have a steady stream of chances flowing his way. While his finishing is amazing, and which we saw at the weekend, he can score from anything. I think before I was going to captain him, I'd want to see Aston Villa playing a bit better and the chance creation being a bit more consistent. I just think there's better options this week than Ings. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I'm happy to go along with that. Captaincy this week's probably the one where it can be a variety of options in it compared to other weeks. If our kind of first two have been Salah or Bruno, and then going forward, once Lukaku emerges as well, it's going to be the same 3 or 4 choices. So maybe this is the week that you kind of go a bit risky in terms of captain. Antonio's probably another one, isn't he, who stands out, Crystal Palace. So there is Son against Watford if he's fit. So I reckon there's definitely a decision to make this weekend. I'm probably like you, going off the stats. I know he's scored 2 in 2, but Ings probably is someone that I wouldn't captain.
Yeah, it is interesting that you mentioned that, though, that this is the week where, for listeners who were tuned into us last season, this is probably the week where you can come out of the missionary position and take a bit of a gamble on something else. But I think it's more for I think with the way I'm trying to play this season, I'm going to keep the risks and taking those chances for second half of the season, I think.
Cool. Next one from Sam. Should I sell Kane for Lukaku? But yeah, if you still got Kane after 2 game weeks, fair play. My answer is yes.
Yeah, I think unless Kane's suddenly at City and Pep says he's going to be in the starting lineup, I think until the transfer windows, until there's some clarity on that, I would probably do that. I think, and he's got a hard game, hasn't he, this week, Lukaku? But a lot of people aren't wanting to touch him. But I think I can see him just pinning on. He's not going to position himself. If he's smart, he'll position himself up against Matip and try and have some success there. I can still see him scoring, and I think he's close to a rise in price already. If he scores against Liverpool, he could be 11.7, 11.8 by this time next week. So yeah, I think while Kane's not playing, his price is dropping as well. So even just for the protecting the team value aspect, probably would probably would make that move.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. That what was I going to say then?
I guess on the flip side, Tottenham have 2 good fixtures. So he came off the bench the weekend, and then maybe if Son does have this injury thing, maybe then Nuno will be forced into starting him. I don't know. I'd see what's said about Kane over the next couple of days in the press conferences and the media, and maybe take the call, because Kane dropped last night. His price dropped last night, so you don't have to make that decision now. You've already missed the value's already dropped, so you don't have to rush into it. I guess the thing that might maybe force your hand and make you go before the press conferences is if Lukaku's set to rise before, you might as well catch that if you are quite confident and you want Lukaku over Kane.
What I was going to say, comparing Chelsea and Liverpool, I know they both got 6 points, but Chelsea have been a lot more assertive in their performances, I'd say. I think Liverpool quite lucky to not concede against Norwich and then Burnley the weekend. So, yeah, I think Chelsea look a lot more like confident in how they're playing. I think this is the first big test for Van Dijk back after his injury, isn't it? So it's one of them. If Van Dijk kind of tackles him and performs really well against Lukaku, then probably that Liverpool defence, you could kind of say that they are back and almost as good as they were 2 years ago. But this could easily be Lukaku getting 2-3 goals, I'd say.
Yeah, it's good to have these premium strikers, like a premium striker back in the game. Like it mixes things up a bit, doesn't it? Everyone was on having like 2 or 3 around the 7.5 bracket, so it's good to have a bit of variety back.
Cool. Got a couple of questions from Froxy and then 2 from Benjamin, but we'll answer one just because we're probably running out of time a bit. This one from Froxy: should he captain Antonio or Bruno? And that is probably the dilemma that I'm going to have this weekend. I'm just edging towards Antonio after his performance at the weekend. I know Crystal Palace was 0-0 at the weekend. They kind of drew. They got beat off Chelsea before that. Maybe they do keep it tight against West Ham, but I just think West Ham, along with Chelsea, have been the standout team for me. And with Chelsea playing Liverpool, then West Ham is probably the standout fixture.
Yeah, I think those 2 are the top 2 options this week, and it's going to be close. I'm not sure yet. You'd say for Bruno though that if the sort of trends from last season continue, where United were a lot better away from home, Bruno did get more points away than he did at home last season, which is something to think about. So the way Wolves have been playing as well, quite open, as you said, lots of shots. Teams that come out and play tend to suit United, so it does make it a tricky one. That not sure at the moment.
Last one from Ben. His first question was, should he get Pinnock in? But this kind of links to that anyway. So he's saying best defender for 5 million. Tsimikas, Sanchez, or Pinnock, who he's referred to in his previous question. So that is a tough question, isn't it? 5 mil. I'm trying to think who would be my go-to there. Tsimikas probably wouldn't, because Robbo's back, and that Tottenham defence has been quite lucky to not concede yet, and it'd be interesting to see how they kind of develop over the next few weeks.
But if it's for 5 million, I'd probably, if you're considering Tottenham, rather than Sanchez, I'd go for Reguilon, however you say his name, because he's been getting forward a lot, and at least then if Tottenham do revert to the mean in terms of actually conceding the goal with the amount of chances they've been conceding, at least there's assist potential, there's attacking returns potential with Reguilon, which you don't have with Davinson Sanchez as much. So I think that would be my pick for 5 million. One other defender just
maybe
to mention.
Kufal, maybe.
Yeah. And then Leeds' fixtures, I know they concede, they've not been looking good, but their fixture run is amazing pretty much from now. They've got Burnley and they've got Liverpool, which is like their only tough game up until like game week 10. So they've got game week 5 Newcastle, game week 6 West Ham, game week 7 Watford, game week 8 Southampton, game week 9 Wolves, game week 10 Norwich. So that does look a good run for getting on a defender, and Ayling does get forward as well. He was noted last season for somehow avoiding an attacking return all season, but I think he is going to get a few this season. So yeah, a little shout to Ayling there.
Cool. I think he already has Regulon, so he's got a
Okay.
few other options there. But yeah, good shout nevertheless. I forgot how good Leeds fixtures were actually, and that's almost the early wild card. Get a few leads in, get Lukaku in. Oh, that's going to be tempting me. So we'll just close the show before we move on to what transfers are going to make this weekend. Just talk about, we've already talked about this week, but in terms of that premium player, obviously we've all got 2 or 3, maybe even 4 in our teams. And just talk about the captaincy over the next few weeks. Like I say, this week's probably Bruno, Antonio, and then Bruno that next game against Newcastle. You'd say, wouldn't you? Looking at those fixtures there. Oh, Rom, if you've got Rom, Aston Villa. So those people who do make that early transfer for Rom, they'll be licking the lips, won't they?
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be Bruno versus Rom, game week 4, definitely.
And then 5 will be Salah, Crystal Palace at home, won't it? That's probably quite a straightforward one. And then Salah plays Brentford the week after. United, Aston Villa. So you're back to probably Bruno or Salah again. So it is probably just this week, isn't it, where you've not got the Bruno Salah debate, or Roma kind of enters the conversation. But that this week's probably going to be interesting in that sense.
Yeah, I should probably mention here that Son, if Son's confirmed fit by Nuno, he's an option Watford at home as well this week, actually, if you've got Son.
Yep.
Don't think Nuno's going to do that, but yeah.
Cool. We'll move on to our transfers this week. I'll just get my team up now. So I've actually already made my 2 transfers. Like I said in previous podcasts, we kind of, especially on the season, kind of go early with your transfers and kind of get on their price rises, especially with no midweek fixtures. So you can kind of, the chances of injury are reduced away from European fixtures when it gets a bit tougher towards Christmas as such. So my 2 transfers this week is I took Ben White out because COVID, he's going to be out for at least another week, isn't he? His price is probably going to drop. So I took him out for Shane Duffy. I did that at the weekend. With his performance, like you say, Veltman probably won't be back now till after the international break. So he's definitely going to get another game, isn't he? Especially a goal and a clean sheet. I'd be very surprised if he doesn't get another game. The only thing is, with the way Calvert-Lewin's kind of playing, they might concede that game, but you never know. And then the other transfer is brought in Mason Greenwood for Harvey Barnes. So I did that before M&F. So if Harvey Barnes got a hat trick, I probably would have been ruining that change. But as it was, I'm probably quite happy with that. The only other one would be Benrahma. And it's almost as if I'm going to be saying the same thing in another few weeks. Like, why didn't I get him in? But his stats, he's kind of doing the Lingard role, that his big chances created and big chances kind of getting in the position to score. It's quite minimal. But when you looked at Lingard last season, he was the same. It's almost as if, does that number 10 in West Ham just kind of defy all logic? So it'd be interesting to kind of follow that conversation going forward. I think captaining Antonio this weekend might be a good way of kind of balancing against the Benrahma owners. Obviously, if Benrahma scores and Antonio doesn't, then that won't pay effect. But that could be a way of kind of counteracting that.
Yeah, mitigating the risk a little bit. So yeah, we should probably mention that you've gone early for the team ride aspect, haven't you? The value.
Yeah, I did that Sunday night because Duffy and Greenwood were both rising, and I wouldn't have been able to make that change the morning after. So yeah, that's the reason I've gone early.
Yeah, and with all the expensive players, I think with all the premiums that we're going to want, I think this season is definitely one to try and build some team value at the start of the season, as we've sort of been saying. So I've also gone kind of early with my transfers. I've actually made 3. So I went after M&F last night. Couldn't talk about Snog and Lukaku and not bring him in. So
you brought Robin. That's a live reveal. Like, wow. You kept. I mean, I had to keep that under wraps all day. That was under embargo, folks.
It was under embargo, yeah. It's Ings that's made way. I think, as we mentioned earlier, they've not been looking that great, Aston Villa. I think I would want to get rid of Ings anyway next week. And with the volatility, Lukaku potentially rising, Benrahma rising. I've done Son to Benrahma as well. The slight vagueness around whether we're going to know if Son's fit or not was off-putting. And with that there, I wasn't going to captain, with that injury doubt, I wasn't going to captain him this week, which is kind of the main reason I picked him in my team to start with. So with it looking like it was going to be between Antonio and Bruno for my captain, I decided just to, if there was one place in my team where I could definitely, well, not definitely, but sort of take a calculated gamble on where to save money, I decided it was Son. A lot of the engaged players, like he's not in the Twitter template as well. He's not one of the ones that's high owned. So if he does punish me, hopefully it won't affect my rank too badly, that move. And I just think Benrahma is just going to keep rising in price. I think if he gets another attacking return or two, he could do what Mahrez did that season where he was 5.5 at Leicester and just end up being close to like 7 or 8 by the end of the season. So I did want to make that switch last night to get on that money train, the Benrahma money train. And Ben White's also made way for Luke Ayling. Talked about Leeds' fixtures. I think I can be happy with Ayling for 6, 7, 8 weeks there, just as a consistent option playing at right back for Leeds. And I wasn't really sure with Ben White when he was gonna, if he gets COVID, is it long COVID? When will he come back? Do I even want an Arsenal defender now with how they've been looking? So yeah, I had to make those. I think I had to make 3 to be able to afford Lukaku. I had to do that. And Ben White was, I think he's going to drop this week. So it was all 3 were kind of focused on team value. If it was last season, I probably wouldn't have gone early. But this season,
Ben White's the same price as Ayling, right? So you could have made the 2.
Right, yeah. So I think maybe it was the fact that White's set to drop this week. That, right, yeah. And I do like sometimes when you've got 2 free transfers to make 3. It's kind of like a little mini wild card. So when I have been patient enough to save 2, I do kind of sometimes just use that -4 to make 3 transfers and freshen things up. So yeah, that's I've got Rom in place now, which is good. Giving myself a decision next week. Will it be a Rom captain or Bruno captain? But both got plum-looking fixtures, so I'll be keeping
what bombshell to end on, because I've been contemplating Rom ever since that performance. So yeah, it's a question of, do you go early or do you wait till after the international break? But you've obviously gone early.
Yeah, it's like I said before. I think if he scores against Liverpool, which could easily happen, then his transfers in will be like what Benrahma's was last night. I think everyone will just be going for it with that Aston Villa at home fixture next. So yeah, I could see his price being 12 million by the international break potentially, or just after the international break. So I did just decide to make that move. A little bit rash maybe, but yeah, it's good for team value. And if it looks like it's all gone tits up, still got the wild card, so you can sort of be a little bit more aggressive when you've still got that wild card to use, can't you?
Yep, definitely. Ben's asking if you can send a picture to get his opinion on his squad. Yeah, sure. Just at @premium_FPL on Twitter, and we'll be happy to answer your query there. I think that's it for this week, though, isn't it? We've covered quite a lot there. Hopefully you enjoyed. We've got a bit of engagement there, which is great from the live listen. Hopefully you enjoyed it. As I said, get in touch at @premium_FPL with any talking points, or you want any questions answered, and hopefully we can answer them.
Yeah, don't forget to if you've had a bit of fun, like the YouTube video if you're watching live, and please give us a subscribe and set the notifications bell on so you get a notification when we go live again. And if you're snogging, marrying, or avoiding anyone this week, let us know in the comments.
Thanks all. We'll see you next week, and have a great game week.
See ya.